So, and both of these are important. And as many have said, that it's really hard to lean into the off the map stuff. This is a
Mm.
Bolsinger quote in particular, but
Mm.
it's hard to lean into the adaptive stuff if you don't have any competency at all on the map with the technical
Mm.
kind of stuff. And so, when I think, especially in the church world, just in terms of examples right now, think about COVID hitting, and this is all in our memories, and some in our very lived experience even today. There were all kinds of technical challenges that showed up, and how do we continue to have a worship service when we can't meet in person?
Yeah.
That can be both a technical and an adaptive challenge. On the technical side, it is we're trying to find a way to now move online what we did used to do in person, and
Yep.
there are very technical pieces to that, and you need experts in that field. And so the way the theory goes is that when you're facing a technical challenge, you've got to get the expert or experts and
Hmm.
give the work to the pros. And so when my car breaks down, I don't know how to fix it, but somebody does. So I take
Yep.
it down to the shop and they take care of it for me. That's
Yep.
a technical fix. I've got a repair guy in the backyard fixing my sprinkler system right now. Which, if I had to do it myself, it'd take me forever. But he
Yeah.
knows what he's doing. And we have all kinds of things like that in the church. And even COVID presented a whole bunch of technical challenges that
Hmm.
we solved in those kind of ways. But the adaptive challenge then is, like, for instance, how do we live out our vision and values as a congregation when COVID hits and now we're
Yeah.
no longer together?
Yeah.
That's a very different question and a deeper level question than just how do we move our worship service online?
Hmm.
It's a what does it look like for us to make disciples in
Yeah.
a world that's changed?
Yeah.
Another adaptive challenge in the midst of all of this, how do we find a way to reach young people? I mean, we weren't good at that prior to COVID hitting.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
at least in most congregations, what does it look like for us to reach the next
Mm.
generation with the gospel of Jesus and to see impact in the world in that kind of way? That's
Yeah.
an adaptive challenge. What do we do about racism in our country right now, and how does the church engage that? That's not a
Yeah.
technical challenge. You don't call the expert and just give it to
Yeah.
somebody. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of churches would rather hire somebody to try to fix that problem
Yep.
rather than say, this is a deeper challenge. We are going to have to change. And adaptive challenges force us actually to look at, if we look at them clearly, we have to look at
Right.
ourselves. We've got to look at our assumptions. We've got to look deeply at our values. And we got to think
Yep.
about, who is God calling us to be in the midst of all of this? What are we going to have to change? Who do we have to become
Yeah.
if we're going to address these kind of things?
Yeah.
And so once again, it's a very different thing than just saying, give it to the expert. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, in most churches, and frankly, this is not just true of churches, it's true in healthcare systems, it's true in
Mm.
government, it's true in school systems, it's true in business. We'd rather actually look to the expert and have the experts give us a technical solution, even to the adaptive challenges, but
Mm.
those don't exist.
Yeah.
And so we end up with these technical fixes, and they're really just band-aids on larger adaptive challenges, and we don't get to the root of what's actually going on. And
Mm.
so once again, it leads me to shared leadership, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we no single leader is going to be able to
Hmm.
figure this out by themselves, and yet we have an
Yeah.
expectation that you got trained to be the pro, so you tell us what to do. And
Yep.
unfortunately, most folks are caving under that, or they just stressed out and anxious like they've never been before. And once again, case in point, just rewind the tape. That's a pretty old metaphor, but rewind the tape a couple years, and you find in the last 2 years the most stressed, anxious pastors we've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? Because they're being expected to solve adaptive challenges with technical expertise, and it just doesn't
Yeah.
work.